is Lisa from Mobile Tech Review, and today we're going to look at the Vizio CT14. This is one of their first computers. A company that was once known as a TV manufacturer has gotten into tablets, and now they're doing notebooks as well. So this guy has a 14-inch Ultrabook, or thin and light as they call it, and you can see from the side it's very thin, very nice looking. Anodized aluminum finish, soft touch black bottom, and we're going to look at it now. So this is the Vizio CT14 14-inch Ultrabook. They also make the CT15, which is a 15.6-inch model. Now, they call them both Ultrabooks and thin and lights, and they're adhering to Intel's definition of an Ultrabook a little bit more than most manufacturers, because that really originally was supposed to be a 13-inch machine, the Ultrabook, but as we've seen, they've morphed into things that are bigger, things that have different kinds of specs, but overall, they're supposed to be machines that are very thin, very light, have Intel processors inside, solid state storage usually, and they're supposed to be priced somewhere around $1,000. Of course, Intel and everybody else would love it if they were even cheaper, but right now the cost of making these things, given the higher quality materials, means that they do typically cost around $1,000. So Vizio, known for undercutting other TV manufacturers when it comes to price, is trying to do the same thing here. This model is the base model. This has a Core i3 ULV CPU. They all have ULV CPUs, that means ultra low voltage, third generation Ivy Bridge. And it's $898 at Walmart. Now Walmart's a big reseller of Vizio products, so that's probably going to be where you're going to find it first. You might catch it on Amazon and a couple of other places. But so as you go up with the processors, you can get this with an i5 and with an i7, though I don't know how readily they are available there. Yeah, they will go up in price, but starting price basically $900. And what does that get you? Gets you this attractive machine, 3.4 pounds, so not the lightest among Ultrabooks, but then again, it's 14 inches, not the usual 13.3. Anodized aluminum finish, it's not bad looking. It's a little bit, I'm sorry to say, bland to my eye, but I've seen worse things. A little Vizio logo over here. Nice little bevels on the side, give it some visual interest. And the side is where it really gets attractive. It looks actually a lot like the Samsung Series 9, almost embarrassingly so. This is kind of Samsung's signature look here, where the ports are full size and it tapers down to almost nothing here. We've got the tapered edge. So nice looking, certainly, even if it is, well, Samsung's design first. We have our power port right here, a USB 3.0 port, and the headphone jack on this side. And on the other side, which looks pretty much identical in terms of design, we have another USB 3.0 port and a full-size HDMI port, so no having to hunt for those micro HDMI adapters or anything like that. Front edge, there's nothing except for a little LED light right here, and there's a little bit of a cutout to make it somewhat easier to open up the lid, which fits nice and tightly down. And notice there is no SD card slot on this, nor is there Ethernet. Back, kind of nice, simple, solid looking thing, pretty beefy hinge here. The hinge feels pretty strong. And on the bottom, we have a kind of rubbery finish over aluminum. I have taken this apart. It is a metal bottom cover. Lots of little Torx T5 screws here hold it on, and we'll slice in a slide for you so you can see what the internals look like. Basically, the memory is soldered onto the motherboard, and this comes with 4 gigs of DDR3, 1333 megahertz RAM, and it has an SSD drive, 128 gigs. This one's been made by Toshiba, and it looks like an mSATA interface to me. And then there's also a socketed combo Atheros Intel Wi-Fi 802.11 BGN dual band card and Bluetooth. And now for comparison, this is what Toshiba calls their everyday Ultrabook. That means affordable. This is a Toshiba Satellite U840. It's a 14-inch Ultrabook. Starts at $879 for the Core i3. Made of metal, but you wouldn't guess it from looking at it. But anyway, you can see size-wise and thickness-wise, we're looking at pretty close to the same thing. Toshiba manages to squeeze a lot more ports in there, but the display isn't going to be as nice. And now we've got the Asus ZenBook Prime UX31A here, arguably one of the most attractive Ultrabooks on the market. 13.3 inch, but you can see in terms of footprint, they're really actually pretty close. When it comes to the skinniness factor, well, the ZenBook is one of the skinniest notebooks on the market, and the taper makes it look even thinner. A little bit more of a high-end design metal that really looks kind of, well, like metal there, but it costs more too. This guy starts at $1099. With the Core i5, there is no Core i3 option for the ZenBook. So the first thing you're going to notice when you take a look at this is it has a really nice display. Vizio uses IPS displays. In the 14-inch, it's 1600 by 900, and it's full 1080p on the 15.6-inch. So great viewing angles, nice colors, really sharp and clear. But there are grades of IPS displays, and I'll say that the ASUS ZenBook Prime UX31A and the UX32VD, they're IPS displays, which are 1080p, even higher resolution, but they have more contrast. I do notice that it's a little easier to read gray text, for example. Often you'll see that, unfortunately, using web pages instead of black, and small text, but overall, this is head and shoulders above most Ultrabooks on the market. The Toshiba, Portage, for example, the Dell XPS 13, they all have TN panel displays. Pretty mediocre stuff. You got to move them backwards and forwards to find the right viewing angles. Most of them are 1366 by 768, so really nice step up here. So for those of you who care about screen quality, that's certainly attractive, and you're not even paying a whole lot extra money for that kind of thing. In fact, you're paying less than many Ultrabooks cost. It is a glossy display. It makes colors look a little richer and deeper. It also helps make blacks look a little bit blacker. So for those of you who really like matte displays, it's back to that ZenBook Prime again. Black levels are good on this. They're not miraculous. Again, that goes with the blacks could be a little bit blacker. But when you're watching a movie, certainly very pleasing. And Vizio is a company that clearly knows about making pleasing displays since they make a lot of HD TVs. And as we look at the keyboard deck here, you can see you have a pretty good wrist rest area, fairly abrupt edge here. It might bug you, might dig into your wrist some. That's a problem with a lot of Ultrabooks given the thin designs and the kind of angular metal. And we have a Centellic trackpad here. Now those are never my favorite. Those were used on the last generation of ASUS ZenBook UX31E, at least on some of them, and they're designed by sadists, I swear. It's not the most predictable trackpad. Even just for moving around, sometimes it can be a little bit jumpy, two-finger gestures, a little bit iffy. I did get a driver update right after I opened up the box, so that really did help improve things somewhat, but still not high on my list of favorite trackpads. Now, it's not wonky. It doesn't just randomly jump and do things on its own and issue a format C: command or something like that before you know it, but yeah, not my favorite. And the keyboard here, well, that's quite different. Everybody's using a chiclet or island style keyboard these days with discrete keys and space in between them, and we've got the old-fashioned kind of edge-to-edge touching keyboard here. Now, I wouldn't just say, oh, gee, Vizio's a TV maker, they don't know anything about computers, because they claim that they spent about 9 months developing this keyboard and testing it on their own employees, that kind of thing. So they put some thought into this, and it's actually not that bad a keyboard, but key travel, it's a typical problem with Ultrabooks. It's pretty shallow, and it is harder to tell where you are on the keys when you're typing. I do find I mistype a little bit more often. Also, I kind of wondered about the keyboard driver maybe needing a little bit of an update, because sometimes it just misses a press, and then sometimes it acknowledges a press twice. It's livable, even if you type a lot, but it's not among my favorite keyboards. Here we have the big speaker grill. We have SRS stereo sound built in, and again, from a TV company, you'd expect some nice multimedia. You do get it here. Obviously, that's your power button right there. And this is not a backlit keyboard. We do have little lights for things like the caps lock, and that's it. There's no backlighting here. You use it in the dark, you don't see what you're doing. Now, as I mentioned, this guy has a Core i3 ULV CPU that's clocked at 1.8 gigahertz. That's actually a little higher base clock speed than the Core i5 ULV used in Vizio's Ultrabooks and in others, which is clocked at 1.7 gigahertz. I really used to try to discourage folks from getting Core i3 CPUs, and now it's not so bad. You do get 2 cores, 4 threads, pretty much the same specs in terms of the Intel HD 4000 integrated graphics, which is what this uses in terms of clock speed, that kind of thing. So not so bad. The only thing you're going to lose is turbo boost. So while the Core i5 turbo boosts up to 2.6 gigahertz, this just stays at 1.8 gigahertz all the time. And the funny thing is, I have noticed it getting a little slow compared to some other Ultrabooks with SSD drives, because those tend to be pretty responsive. And oddly, it's when I'm doing multitasking, and that's when you expect more cores might be in use. I've got a couple apps running, I'm juggling them around, maybe doing a software install, so I really expected that when I'm doing a single demanding task, like video playback or video editing or something, that's where I might notice a little slower, but it's the multitasking that I'm feeling it in. Overall, though, it's a pretty fast and responsive machine. These days, even ULV CPUs offer more power than most folks need. If you're just going to do productivity work, MS Office, edit some photos, watch videos, including HD videos, that kind of thing, YouTube, all that, certainly it's up to the task. If you're going to be doing demanding things, if you spend your day in Adobe Creative Suite, for example, if you do a lot of serious HD video editing, that's something that you do day in and day out. Well, in general, Ultrabooks are not the best pick, and I really wouldn't pick one with the Core i3. But again, this is also available with the Core i5 and Core i7 for those of you who need more. Benchmark speeds on this are decent. Now, it does have an SSD drive and a Toshiba one that's a pretty good unit, so We expect good benchmarks, but the i3 is a bit slower, and it shows we got a just under 7,000 on PC Mark Vantage, where we see 10,000, sometimes even above on some other Ultrabooks with Core i5 CPUs, and Core i7s can go even higher. And on 3D Mark Vantage, it actually did pretty well. It got a 3042 for a score with the Intel HD 4000 integrated graphics. Not so bad. Would I buy this to play today's most demanding 3D games? No, I wouldn't. But if you're going to play older games like Rise of Nations, Diablo 2, no problem. Diablo 3, oh boy, you're going to have to cut back on that screen resolution and turn all your effects off. And then, yeah. So again, not really a gaming notebook, more of a video consuming kind of notebook. If you do move up to the Core i5 and Core i7, again, you're still looking at Intel HD 4000 integrated graphics, so you'll get more playable frames per second in games like Diablo 3, but you're still going to have to keep the resolution pretty low. And by that I mean 1366 by 768, which isn't a horrible resolution. That's what a lot of notebooks do run at, but still, yeah, not my first pick. For around the same price, or just a little bit more depending on which variation you get, the Sony Vaio S13.3 for you gamers might be a better choice, because all but the base model have NVIDIA GeForce GT 640M LE dedicated graphics in the mix, and it weighs about 3.4 pounds as well. And here you can see the Windows Experience Index, 6.2 for the CPU, a little bit lower than we usually see with obviously a Core i5 or i7. There is a difference there, but not too bad. 5.9 for memory, 5.7 for graphics for Aero Desktop, 6.4 for 3D gaming, and 7.5 out of a possible 7.9 points for the SSD drive. So that's not bad at all there. One thing I do like about this is Microsoft Signature Edition notebook. What does that mean? That means it's clean. It doesn't have bloatware on it. It is pristine. There's nothing slowing it down. It's pretty nice. You do get the MS Office 2010 Starter Edition on here, and Microsoft Security Essentials, which I recommend anyway. It's free and it works pretty well. It's very lightweight. So no other stuff on here. There's not even a Vizio Updater app. Now you can go to their website and look for driver updates and that kind of thing, but very clean. On the 128 gig SSD, we have 77 gigs available on this machine, and there is a recovery partition that uses up some of the space on the hard drive. So we'll test some music and video playback so you can see how the speakers sound, or hear how they sound rather. You can see we're about 75-80% up in volume. Not bad sound. And by the way, you can use the FN keys without having to hit the FN key first. You just tap them like you would on the Mac. So not too bad. Let's try video next. So now we're going to try a MPEG 4 1080p high profile trailer, 5.1 audio, so pretty demanding stuff. Obviously 1600 by 900 resolution. It's going to scale it down so it fits on the screen. But you could play it HDMI out or do DLNA, whatever you like.
Nothing happened the way it was supposed to happen.
Plays perfectly. Sound reasonably good. Not stellar audio, but pretty good. And we're going to check out some YouTube video playback. But first you can see we've got our web page open here, desktop view, and there's room on the side. So given the resolution, it's kind of nice. You could shrink this down a bit, this window, and you can see facing pages, or at least parts of facing pages. And if you're using apps that have palettes, for example, you've got enough room to have the palettes float around. So that's the benefit of having the higher resolution display here. And we'll look at our ZenBook Prime UX32VD video review. Fan on this, by the way, is pretty quiet even when it's working and playing video, something like that. It is a slightly sounding fan, though. It's not like one of those low-key fans that you don't notice. It's not horrible, but a little high-pitched. Now here's our video. That's pretty darn loud. Then we'll go up to 1080p if YouTube's able to stream that nicely at the moment. Obviously using the Wi-Fi connection. This is Lisa from Mobile Tech Review, and today we're going to look at the ASUS ZenBook Prime UX32. Looks really nice. Again, this is a great screen for watching video. UX31A, which is a classic Ultrabook with ULB CPUs. And now it's doing something like playing HD streaming video. does get warm right in the center over here, but nothing alarming. It stays under 100 degrees certainly, so the comfort levels are such that it stays below the temperature of the human body, generally speaking, and that's acceptable. We're talking mid-90s or so. And the bottom side, again, warm but not hot, so for a thin metal machine, not bad. Vizio claims 7 hours of battery life for this. Most Ultrabooks average around 6 or so, so that seems reasonable. We're still doing tests right now. I would say it looks like it's on target for doing about 6.5 hours. And again, that is with the lowest power CPU option available. It would go down a little bit if you go up to the Core i5 or i7, but it shouldn't drastically drop. Since this has Atheros, Wi-Fi, and Bluetooth instead of Intel, there is no WiDi for wireless streaming to your home theater system. For those of you who want more power and more storage, the top-of-the-line model, there are 3 versions of the CT14 going from the Core i3 to the Core i5, both with 128 gig SSDs, and the Core i7 ULV, all Ivy Bridge, all Intel HD 4000 graphics, has a 256 gig SSD, still 4 gigs of RAM, still soldered on the motherboard. The 15.6-inch version comes with the same hardware specs in terms of CPU, processor, and SSD options, but you'll get the full 1080p display instead. So that's the Vizio CT14 Thin and Light, or Ultrabook, depending on how you want to call it. Best selling point, really awesome screen for the price. I wish all Ultrabooks had a screen that was this nice. It may not be as good as the ZenBook Prime UX31 and UX32 VD, but it's very sharp, very nice wide viewing angles, good enough black levels and contrast to certainly make movie watching a pleasurable thing. The other attractive thing is the price. It may not be the very cheapest Ultrabook on the market, but it's a pretty darn nice price, especially for the display you get on here. Things I'm not as thrilled with, the trackpad, boy, it's just not my favorite trackpad. And the keyboard, it depends. Some of you don't like chiclet-style keyboards and you prefer this kind of edge-to-edge design here. It is a keyboard you can get used to. I do wish it had backlight, though. I'm Lisa from Mobile Tech Review. Visit our website for the full review, and don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel.